This is Pixelated Audio, episode 97, and today we're listening to Big Bang Pro Wrestling on the Neo Geo Pocket Color.
Welcome back to the video game music and retro gaming podcast, Pixelated Audio. I'm one of your hosts, James, and this is Brian.
How's it going, guys? Today we are going to be playing music and talking about Big Bang Pro Wrestling for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. I'm excited because we played a track from this game, I want to say
been a while,
like
I
50
think.
episodes ago or something, and we thought, one day we got to do a show on this. This is a great little soundtrack. It's very tight and fun to listen to.
Oh, and it's a great game, too, but good luck trying to buy it for your own Neo Geo Pocket Color. So
yeah, it's kind of pricey, huh? I couldn't find a copy. I actually found one copy when I was in Japan, and it was like behind glass, and it was like,
Well, not only are they expensive, they're just hard to find. So even seeing one is difficult.
Yeah. But the soundtrack is excellent. It's composed by Takafumi Wada. And so we got some information on him. So we're going to go through the soundtrack together, listen to it, and kind of share our thoughts on some of the music.
Yeah.
So I just got back from Japan like 2 days ago.
Right.
And so I have jet lag. So if I start like crashing like midway through the episode, you know why. But that's why we didn't get a show out last, 2 weeks ago? Because,
the 15th.
Yeah, I was gone, and so it just didn't happen. And we were trying not to stress about it. I'm back, and now it should be pretty regular for the most part, I think, going forward.
Yeah, and I think this episode is not only just going to be fun, but I think it's going to be relatively in that sweet spot of not too long, not too short.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a ton of tracks. It's not a super, detailed, involved game, and it's for, really handheld that we really have a sweet spot for.
Yeah, so I think today it's going to be light, going to be fun, and let's talk about that first track, that opening track that we came in with.
I thought it was a nice, short, fun track. It has a little bit of drama in there and a little bit of, heroicness. And to me, it just would get you really pumped to be like, oh, this is going to be really fun.
It's got, you're right, that showmanship kind of thing that wrestling has. And so, getting you kind of geared up, and like you see the intro, the opening sequence is like some like yoked out dude kind of like walking towards the screen, just showing his legs and kind of moving up. And it fits, dude. It's a really good little track.
Yeah.
Fun. And I like the, I don't know what it is about the Neo Geo Pocket Color sound, even though the sound chip is used in like a million other things. It just sounds so, maybe it's the way that the composers, I don't know. Maybe it's something about SNK and like their quality control. I don't know, but it always sounds so fun and like tight.
Yeah, I would think with the Neo Geo Pocket Color, the one of the first things that I think about for their games is just, it's so much fun. Whether it's a shooter, a beat 'em up, a platformer, anything like that, it's just going to be a really good time.
Yeah, so this game, both you and I played it over a year or so ago for the first time, and we really enjoyed it, so it's going to be fun going through this together today. Let's talk about the publisher real quick, SNK. We've talked about them numerous times. We're not going to get into too much detail, but SNK was or is known for their fighting game. Samurai Showdown, King of Fighters, Fatal Fury, Art of Fighting, Last Blade, some of the best stuff to hit the coin-op world.
Right.
Metal Slug, Baseball Stars, Neo Turf Masters, which we had a show on, Sengoku, Shock Troopers, Aero Fighters. I mean, constant innovation, extremely diverse in different game genres that they produce. However, only twice in the company's history, they decided to give wrestling, the genre, a shot. There was King of Monsters, which is kind of like a wrestling game, but not really. It's more like a kaiju, like smash kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really count that one. But like 2 times in their history, like they really did give it a full honest attempt. So the first time in 1993, they released a title called 3 Count Bout in the arcades. And I've played this a bunch because 3 is high up on the MAME list, so it's so it's easy to put on.
He was like, what is this?
Yeah, so really pretty detailed sprites. I don't know if I ever saw it in the arcade.
I've never seen it in an actual arcade, but like all those games that you listed, they're beautiful.
Yeah,
they're polished
gorgeous.
from top to bottom.
And for 1993, it's pretty incredible. the problem is it's a bit clunky. It feels like the animation isn't very good, which is not very SNK. It's almost like a one-on-one beat 'em up game with like wrestling moves kind of thrown in. I wouldn't say it's horrible, but it's not. It's all right. It's give it a shot and you can decide for yourself. But it's yeah. We're not going to do an episode on 3 Count Bout anytime soon. But 1993.
Yeah, so jump ahead to right before the company went bankrupt in 2000, SNK took another stab at a wrestling title with Big Bang Pro Wrestling on the Neo Geo Pocket Color. But this time, they took more of the formula that the Fire Pro Wrestling games took and also had some similarities with LJN's WWF games like Super WrestleMania.
Yeah, and I think there was Raw, like WWF. No. Royal Rumble. That was the other one. I love those games. They were so good.
Yeah, they are pretty fun. And you can definitely see the similarities with the more like cliche wrestling, like, that type of style with the ring and all that stuff. But so Big Bang Pro Wrestling was released in November of 2000, published by SNK and developed by SNEO. Now, this game never saw a port and never made its way outside of Japan. However, it did have a full English option included.
Yeah, so this was SNK's last game before they went bankrupt. So maybe they were planning like a stateside release and they just went bankrupt before they were able to get something out. Not sure. That's kind of, I guess we'll never know. But if you set your Neo Geo Pocket Color to the English language or your emulator, it will, display everything in English. So it's really cool for those of, us that can't speak Japanese and want to still be able to enjoy the game. It's not like wrestling needs a lot of
there's
language.
Not a lot of dialogue.
Yeah, there's not a lot of language ability needed, I think, even in, whether you speak English or not. So.
Yeah, I mean, in this was a really popular thing back in those days for, 2000, wrestling was huge here in the States. So I could have seen this game doing really, really well.
Yeah.
Even though the Neo Geo Pocket Color, like we talked about, didn't really make a huge splash in the US, I think if you had one, this would probably be a game you might be interested in.
I wholeheartedly believe that. I think that if this game had made it to the States, Neo Geo Pocket Color owners would have this game. This would be like the one to get, so.
Right, because even before the episode, you and I were talking about how we were both into wrestling when we were in junior high, and for me, it even carried into high school. I mean, as in the 80s, when I was a little kid, I was really into like Hogan, Big Boss Man, Jake the Snake, all that stuff. And then, that kind of carried all the way into high school where...
Yeah, mine stopped at junior high. I was like,
I remember the merger of WWF, WCW, and getting pay-per-views and stuff like that.
I had no problems with it. I was like,
Yeah, for me, it was like soap opera for a boy. And it was exciting, but eventually I kind of got over all the drama and was prepared to leave for college, I guess.
You're in your college dorm, just kind of like watching it, like, so nobody can see you and stuff. Anyways, so SNEO, their whole reason for existence originally was to solely be a contracting dev team for Human Entertainment, helping with some of the dev on some of Human's earlier titles, and then doing full development for Vanguard Bandits in 1998, and then Fire Pro Wrestling G in 1999 for the PS1.
Which I'm sure gave them a huge one-up for being able to develop Big Bang. I mean, they had experience now.
Yeah.
However, they turned into a freelance group shortly after and worked on a number of other titles for other publishers, such as Big Bang Pro Wrestling, a few of the simple 1500 series titles for the PS1, some romance adventure visual novels for the Dreamcast and PS2, and Fire Pro Wrestling Returns in 2005 for the PS2. So it seems like wrestling was kind of becoming their thing.
Yeah, that and visual novels. And a bunch of Keitai games for Docomo's iMode platform, which is like this kind of internet-based, like web-based game for like Japanese smartphones at the time. Their most recent title was called Cream Puff, another Tail Scenari in 2008. Yeah,
see.
I hadn't played it. But after that, though, they kind of dissolved. Not really clear on what happened. Their website just kind of like stopped. Like they stopped paying for their host and or whatever. It's just like no longer there. So
yeah, and you would think, this is something we run into a lot with older games in like the 80s and 90s where things were not documented very well, but the 2000s weren't really that much better.
Yeah, and they're still not that much better today, but whatever. Anyways, let's get into some music finally. So we're going to start off with Beginning, which is the wrestler bio, and we'll be right back. All right, that was Beginning, which is the wrestler bio composed by Takafumi Wada for Bang Bang Pro Wrestling on the Neo Geo Pocket Color.
Not a terribly long track, and not anything that's too distracting. I think it fits for the wrestler bio area where you're going to be reading, looking at stats, stuff like that. I thought it felt a little reserved, which works for that section. But I really liked it. It had like a nice build up to the really soaring high part. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I love the kind of vibrato on the higher notes, like when it goes ding. I really like that through just this PSG. It just sounds so clean. And like I said earlier, like the soundtrack is really like tight, and you can kind of hear that right with this first track. Like every note is really defined. Doesn't kind of melt them together. It kind of keeps everything almost like it would be kind of overboard to say march, but like it's something. It's like very tight.
Yeah,
sounding
it's like very regimented.
Yeah, exactly.
Clean.
I'm trying to think of a better way to say that, but I think tight is just the best one I can come up with. Anyways, so what do we got next?
Next up, we have Fight, which is the normal match background music. You just heard Fight, composed by Takafumi Wada for Big Bang Pro Wrestling on the Neo Geo Pocket Color.
See, this is a cool track to me. Like I really like that kind of build up, and then the two square waves kind of just going like kind of in tandem. Playing the melody, one playing the harmony, and then the bass doing its own thing.
Yeah,
I like that. I think that's kind of what you get a lot with 4-channel sound chip, but I like that. That kind of encompasses everything we love and hold dear about like Japanese, video game music, I think.
Oh, yeah. And the Neo Geo Pocket Color seems to always have like a really good soundtrack.
Very bright.
Yeah, very bright and fun. I think this song actually had like some swagger to it. It was like a little bit of attitude. Like I got the idea of someone just like walking down that ramp, even though this is used during the battles, during the fights. I just like this felt like somebody really confident, like I'm gonna win, I'm gonna go for that belt. But I liked it. It was very catchy too. Like I can imagine myself just like humming this, just over and over on a loop, just humming it to myself.
Yeah, I really like Takafumi Wada's stuff. Like I think this is you could have told me this was done by the same team that did like Sonic or anything. I would believe you. Maybe because it is Neo Geo Pocket Color. I don't know, but. It has the guy did an excellent job, I think, on the soundtrack the whole way through. We're going to be listening to pretty much all the tracks. Yeah. And I think you guys will.
That's one of the great things about handhelds. You tend to not have like a huge amount of tracks that we can go through them all.
Yeah. So real quick about Takafumi Wada. He started working for a game audio studio right out of school, like high school, because his first credits date back to around 1999, and he would have probably been like 19 or 20. At that time.
And that's not uncommon for a lot of these composers. We've heard, some of them still being in high school, like and working for companies and stuff like that, which is really cool. It's always great to see people start out early because then they get massive lists of games that they work on, like Wada. There's a huge amount of games he's worked on, like Ashita no Joe for the Game Boy Advance, PlayStation 2, Initial D, Another Stage for the Game Boy Advance, Gals Fighter, and Puzzle Link 2 for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, The Wild Rings for Xbox.
I never heard of that.
Yeah, I never heard of that one either. Fire Pro Wrestling D for the Dreamcast, Fire Pro Wrestling Returns for the PlayStation 2, Mighty Pang for the arcade, Kenkabancho 1 and 2 for the PlayStation 2.
I love Kenkabancho 1. Like, I was really into that game. It's basically like a Japanese like mini Yakuza gangs, like
oh, cool.
Yeah, like little street gangs basically. And with the big like pompadours and stuff, and like you get into battles and it's basically electricity between your eyes. Like,
I think you showed me this game and I thought it was pretty hilarious.
Yeah,
it looked really fun.
Yeah, it's really funny, like the way they speak and stuff too. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh,
Continue.
It's always great to hear. I'd never heard of Kenkabancho. Even, I guess you showed it to me and I didn't remember. But so these also arranged music for Double Dragon Advanced on the Game Boy Advance and a few other Neo Geo Pocket Color, Windows, PS2, Game Boy games, as well as arcade, including arrangements for Monster Hunter Generations in 2016 and composition for Fire Emblem Echoes in 2017 for the 3DS. That's a long list of games.
Yeah, he's been doing it since 1999 all the way up until 2017. 2018, I think he's still working on stuff.
Those are some pretty big games.
Yeah, it was a long list. We actually had to chop it down because we were afraid we'd be here forever. Originally, he worked for another company, but he started his own audio studio called Dimension Cruise around 2006 and began working on compositions for TV dramas, documentaries, and movies for a bunch of different Japanese broadcasting networks. There was Tokyo Broadcasting, NHK, Fuji TV, and TV Asahi. And funny thing is, his wife, Yoko Mizumoto, also was employed at the same company he started at and then moved on to Dimension Cruise doing composition as well.
But Wada, his list is insane, though. Looking at all of his studio profile, I mean, there are pages and pages of stuff that he's done compositions for.
Right. And I mean, this, again, isn't just game-related stuff. Like, he's done the gamut. And he's actually really well-known in the anime community, I think, for doing a bunch of, solo anime episodes. And he even did some stuff for Xenoblade Chronicles. I think he did, like, a jingle for them. He's guys all over the place.
Yeah, I would assume that having that skill set and that diversity of being able to make music for TV and all those different things, anime, has allowed him to continue doing stuff for games this long because his career is still going, he's still making money, and can pick projects as he goes along.
I did get a chance to chat with him for like 5 minutes, and then he had to run, and I was really hoping we could coerce him to be on the show, but we didn't make it in time, so maybe I can like splice it in here somewhere, like if it comes up down the road. Anyways, let's get into another track. This is called Knives, and it's actually Brian's theme, my theme, composed by Takafumi Wada. All right, that was Knives, which is Brian's theme, composed by Takafumi Wada for Big Bang Pro Wrestling.
I think one thing I'm going to keep saying over and over is that these tracks are very catchy, and I think that is something very important in wrestling. Even though these are fake wrestlers, they're not real people. They're not based. I mean, some of them are based on real people, but it's not songs you've heard from watching wrestling.
Yeah, it's not like a theme of an existing, character. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But like when I remember watching wrestling and you'd hear like the first couple notes of someone's entrance music and you're like, oh no, somebody's like going to run into the ring. And so you want it to be very catchy and memorable And I thought this track was really fun. I thought it was just really cool. I liked the really high part, how it had just kind of like this nice, like everything was going cool, and it just kind of kicks it up a little bit a notch. And I don't know, I just thought it was really fun.
Man, the bass is rocking on this one. I mean, within the Neo Geo Pocket, kind of band. It's really good. I like this. Listening to the car, I was like, oh man, I'm digging this. Yeah. And you get both the two square waves up on that top range doing the vibrato together, and then the bass kind of drops off. It's cool, man. What's awesome is this game has a theme for each of the characters, kind of like you were saying with like real wrestlers. Like you have kind of like this dedicated theme to go with each person as they come out, as they walk. And what's really neat is each character has their own ring entrance too. It's not just the music. They get like kind of like this walk as they come into the ring, and like there's different presentation for like pyrotechnics and smoke and different lights, and the crowd is like a little bit different for each person. So I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah, and all that stuff, really, is from someone that liked watching wrestling, the entrance of the characters is something that's very important to the branding of that character and likability, or if you're going to hate that character, which, there's many characters that are designed specifically for you to hate them.
Right.
And I really like that this game took the attention to make a different one for each character. And they're just basically walking out, and they're just walking to the ring, but the crowd colors change, the pyrotechnics are different, the music's different. It was really cool. A lot of attention to detail.
Yeah, and I think that you get to hear this also when we'll get into the modes and stuff later, but you also hear this during like their kind of bio when they have their story. Each character has their own kind of like, kind of mini chopped up story. And this plays kind of during that too. So we're going to be listening to a lot of the character themes as we go through the episode. And this is kind of like the first one. He's the first character, I think, in the roster too. So real quick, let's kind of recap on the Neo Geo Pocket Color sound hardware, because it's been a while since we did a Neo Geo Pocket Color Focus, and I think our focus was actually Sonic, which was like
way early. It was like sub 20 episode.
Yeah, and then we had the Neo Turf Masters episode where we kind of retouched on it. We've had tracks here and there from expansion packs, but we haven't really talked
Turf
about
Masters
this.
Was still a long time ago, I think.
Was it?
I think it was like.
It's like 60,
under 70.
Oh, really?
It was like, I think episode 68, 69 or something like that.
It doesn't feel that long ago to me. But yeah, so the sound chip that's found in the Neo Geo Pocket Color is called the T6W28, and it's based on two partial SN76489A cores, the chip in the Master System, and a lot of other systems at the time. Very popular chip, very cheap to produce. And it's driven by a Z80 processor. Yeah,
4 channels, 3 square wave tone generators, and 1 noise generator.
Yes, plus direct access to the 2 digital to analog converters. The Neo Geo Pocket Color, though, it has stereo sound output, but through the headphone jack only. So the way that you guys are hearing it is actually in stereo, because that's how, it was ripped and we are listening to it now.
Yeah, in a lot of these handhelds, if it had a stereo or a headphone jack, that's how you would listen to it. You're probably going to be out somewhere, you're going to have some noise in the background, and you can really crank it up and hear it.
Yeah, and most handhelds only had one speaker on the front anyway, so, and the audio fidelity was very low.
Yeah.
So, but separate levels can be set for the left and right on each channel, so it's kind of, there is something you can actually make like a really interesting stereo effect. I haven't really noticed much in what we've heard so far, but as we kind of get through it, we might hear more and more of that stereo kind of volume leveling and stuff. Anyways, you ready to get into some more music?
Oh yeah, so we got plenty of themes to go through. The next one is going to be Mike's theme, which is called Red 2000X. You just heard Red 2000X, which is Mike's theme, composed by Takafumi Wada.
Now, this one reminds me, and I can't pinpoint it, but I want to say like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the Game Boy. There's something like that, like there's something there that maybe it's Zixies for the NES. I don't know. Now I'm drawing now I'm seeing like 20 other things, but
yeah. Well, this track definitely has a much different feel than Brian's theme. This one to me has a little bit more futuristic, cutscene type feel to it, and has a lot more of like an echo to everything, which I thought gave it that kind of futuristic 80s, 90s kind of sound, even though this was, in the 2000s.
Is this the guy that's kind of like hunched over and looks like...
No, I think that's Deitz.
Oh, yeah. Well, why don't we listen to Deitz, because he's next. So this is Deitz' theme, which is called Night Saw, composed by Takafumi Wada. All right, that was Night Saw, which is Deitz' theme, composed by Takafumi Wada. There's not a lot to this track. It's a little on the darker side, but when it's kind of playing with the harmony and melody, you really do get that. Unless I have like some kind of weird ear allergy and I'm just not hearing it right, but you do get this really cool effect with this track.
Yeah, like you said, this track, like the title suggests, it's darker, a saw at night. It's darker, it's more minimal than some of the previous one. It's still kind of catchy, but it's a lot more psychological, which I got from it. It felt like you're on the edge of things about to get scary, which fits this character very well. We're going to get into some of the characters later on, and who they're based on and what their abilities are and stuff like that. But we're very quickly seeing that all these characters are pretty different from one another. Yeah,
and they each have their own kind of mini story. I mentioned earlier, but like they didn't have to do that. It was, and the fact that it was all in English too makes it really nice, because you can follow along, and anybody else who's playing an emulator who doesn't speak Japanese can actually kind of go through it. Again, very minimal, but still adds to that fun factor, I think. Like having something in a game that you're playing a fighting game, you're playing a wrestling game. You notice Capcom, SNK, they all have this little tiny backstory for the characters, right, to give you that extra sense of like this is an actual like person kind of thing, or an actual like existing being, rather than just like these no name, action figures, or what I mean.
Yeah, it gives you that sense of who are the hero types and who are the villain types, and who do you like to play as.
Yeah, so the game itself though kind of centers around this whole kind of battle royale story. So tell me about that. Yeah,
so this game is kind of a revival of the sprite-based wrestling games that were released before it. Like we've mentioned before, games on the Game Boy, NES, stuff like that. Only a handful of the top wrestlers are able to compete for the greatest prize in wrestling, which is the IEW Championship belt. And after the great king of IEW, Joseph Steele, returns to defend his throne.
What does IEW stand for?
I don't know what it actually stands for off the top of my head.
I couldn't find out either.
I didn't see it listed anywhere, but
I didn't either. That's why I was wondering if you knew, because I had no idea.
Well, the W probably stands for wrestling, so international
something
W wrestling. I don't know.
International Wrestling. Anyways, yeah. So the gameplay wise though is really interesting. So on the Neo Geo Pocket Color, attacks are limited to A and B because that's all you got.
Yeah,
on the system.
Unfortunately, the system only has the 2 buttons, no triggers, and just that awesome joystick.
Yeah.
So A is used for physical attacks and grappling, while B is used for other actions like getting in and out of the ring, climbing the turnbuckle, taunts, pinning your opponent. Basically, the everything else type button.
The everything else button.
Yeah,
the all of the above button.
Yeah, so you got your very limited use for A, and B is like everything else. Each character, once their name starts flashing, if you hit A and B together, you can do special attacks, which is pretty cool. It's a nice use of the button. It's probably not likely you're going to hit A and B at the same time accidentally anyway.
Right.
So,
and even if you did, I think you'd have to wait for your name to be flashing anyway, right? To use that special. Yeah.
So each character has their own special attacks like you would expect, and that doesn't just go for the specials. Each character has their own subtleties in the way that they fight that make them unique from all the other characters.
Yeah. The game plays like a super simplified version of Fire Pro Wrestling, complete with like their grappling system. It's really, really tough to figure out the timing and actually turned me off the first time I played. But with a bit of patience, I was able to get the timing down and the game turned into a load of fun.
Yeah.
I absolutely adore this game. Like right after you figure it out, then that's when everything clicks and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
And I feel like that is part of how a lot of wrestling games work. Even the really simple ones to the more complex ones. Like I remember getting really big into WrestleMania 2000 on the N64 and played it a ton. And then I picked it up not too long ago for another 64. And it was just so hard to get the hang of again. But then once you start getting the way the buttons work, you can start chaining different combos and you actually feel like you're in charge.
Yeah, if you decide to give the game a shot, the timing really comes down to this very, very tight window. So both wrestlers kind of throw their arms back and they like almost instantly spring back together. The moment their hands touch, hit A, which will do like a body slam or something like that. And once you've kind of beaten them down a bit, then you can start doing more combos. So you can like hit A and like left on the joystick or, A and up on the joystick and it'll perform different moves. So that's kind of how they get around the 2-button limitation. For the timing though, I highly recommend you start with easy mode and kind of once you get it down, then move on to normal mode because seriously, I was like so frustrated. I was like, how can anybody play this game? Like, there's no like
the computers just destroy you.
Yeah, it just destroy you, and like I can't win any grapples. And it's really just comes down to that timing. So I put it on easy, was able to get through it several times, and then I moved to normal, and the game was just a blast.
Yeah, and like we said, each of the characters play differently. So once you get the hang of how the moves work, you can play as a different character and get different kinds of moves. So it'd be really fun to play through as all the different characters, which adds a lot to these tiny little games.
Yeah, so let's get into some more music. This is called Samurai, which is the title defense match background music. So we'll listen to that and we'll be right back. All right, that was Samurai, title defense match background music composed by Takafumi Wada.
This track, to me, is very much more heroic feeling. There's a lot more range, and it feels more soaring and dynamic and more complex than the other tracks we've listened to, which makes sense for where this would fit into the game.
Yeah, this is kind of like the more... this is, title defense. I mean, this is where you're going up against somebody who's holding the record, so it has to be something a little more challenging sounding, I want to say, and this track delivers. I think the kind of that, galloping kind of clackety bass is really fun, and it kind of adds like a little bounce to it. It's really interesting to listen to, and you can really hear the stereo, I think, come out in this track a little bit more too. Do you want to listen to that real quick? We could just kind of solo out those 2 channels. You can get it. Yeah,
especially since we found a track so quickly after mentioning to keep an eye out for stereo.
Right. Let's turn on the 2 square channels, first 2 channels. It's still minimal stereo effect. I think we're only getting a little bit of volume dampening in in the left side, but it's still obvious. You can still hear it. There's clearly some tricks that he wants to do to have this harmony in the background sound that really is only kind of dancing in one ear, and I think that's a cool effect. Something for a simple chip. Even the subtle differences make a big difference, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, so we've talked about the kind of the gameplay a little bit. There's a bunch of different modes in this game. It actually has a lot to offer.
Oh yeah, now that we've talked about how the game works, I think it's a good chance to get into the 4 different playable modes this game has. So there's the story mode, which is the IEW Championship, where you have to face all 7 other characters and then finally fight the boss for the belt. And then there's one match and tournament mode, which that's 2 different modes lumped together. They basically have the same parameters. They let you pick a match and set the rules with different timers, rules, ring colors, difficulty of the opponent, all that stuff. It's like your custom match or tournament.
Right. So each time you play, you can kind of customize it the way you want, which is really awesome. You can change it to like a Neo Geo Pocket Color SNK ring,
right?
And then change the background, change the colors a little bit, the palette, swap them out and stuff. I like that. Now the one match is really like it sounds. It's just like a single match, and then you're back in the screen.
Yeah, just you versus somebody, and then you can make your own tournaments, and which is kind of neat, like you said, with being able to change the ring and the colors and everything else. But there's some other really cool things you can turn off and on in these modes. So there's coffin option, and then there's the money option. So in the coffin option, the loser gets thrown into an open casket, which is kind of neat, which happened a lot in wrestling. There was all these different fancy table matches and, like all these different ladders and stuff that were used to create these special kind of unique matches. So to have something like that is really cool. And then there's the money option, where the players climb a rope outside the ring to try to get to a bag of money, which is really cool because in WWF, WWE, all that stuff, they do all these crazy matches like that where everyone's trying to scramble to do the same thing, and then somebody gets all the way up there, and you're like, oh, they almost got it, and then somebody suplexes them off the top, and
it's like King of the Mountain kind of thing.
Yeah. So it was just a really cool way to spice up just doing regular tournaments and having these special type of matches. Then there's the final mode, which is a standard 2-player via the second Neo Geo Pocket Color and a link cable. So that's the 4th mode is that's 2-player.
That's what we're playing on our podcast cover. That we're playing Big Bang Pro Wrestling together. Another cool thing about this game is it has a physical ref that runs around, and you can kind of kick his butt too.
Yeah, which is always cool.
And he'll fall down and pass out. And I think when he's down, the timer stops, right? Or not the timer, but he can't count.
Right. So you can't win a match.
Yeah. So if you're pinning somebody and the referee's laying on the ground unconscious, you just have to wait until he wakes up before you can get the count started.
And that could be the change in the tide, so that now you're losing instead of you were winning, which was always a great feature in WWF wrestling type stuff, where bad guys would come in, they'd knock the ref out, and then you get screwed over. And so that's another layer that adds to the fun of this simple handheld game.
Yeah. I want to kind of backtrack real quick to the thing that I like about the tournament mode, and that's that you can set it up to be a bunch of CPU players.
Oh, yeah.
So I was kind of doing some research on it last night. I figured I would just, throw that on and just watch other guys kind of battle it out. And it was cool. It was like watching little wrestling matches, little 8-bit wrestling matches, like in the, in the corner of my room.
Yeah, you didn't know who's going to win, and then you get to see how the tournament shakes out.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Anyways, let's get into some more music. This is Fujiyama, which is Show's theme. All right, that was Fujiyama, which is So's theme, composed by Takafumi Wada.
I think this track starts out kind of interesting, how there's like that kind of start and stop.
It almost
type
sounds
thing.
like it's going to be a 10-second track.
Yeah, or like there's something wrong with the track, but it kind of gives me that that Eye of the Tiger song.
Okay,
where it's just like
yeah.
dun dun dun. Like it kind of gives me a little bit of that feel, even though it's not as energetic as that, but it gives me that idea that they're kind of starting and stopping to try to build a little bit of tension.
Right.
But I really like the way the track kind of progresses into a little bit more of a all together track.
Yeah, there's something going on with the second square wave up there that I kind of want to point out. It just sounded kind of neat. Like I couldn't figure out what it was doing, and a lot of these notes, a lot of these tones are very clear cut, and you can pinpoint them. It's not really worth soloing a lot out because it's so obvious, But this one kind of gave me a little bit of a hey, what's going on kind of feeling. So let's just take a listen real quick. Stand by me. No, that's weird because that sounds so much more like in the major scale. Like it's a little more happy feeling than the rest of the track. If we listen to the rest, it doesn't have that same feeling to it.
I think it sounds kind of optimistic still, but it sounds like you have maybe something tough to do. But when you were sewing that channel out, there's like the part where as the note's going up, it kind of like trips.
Oh,
and
it's
me,
very segmented.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like fingers sliding across a fretboard, or like strumming on a guitar, like the pick hitting the note on the way up. So I thought that was kind of neat. It gave it kind of like a I don't know. It just gave it a different feel to me to have the notes do that, because you could just not have that sound in there that it sounds like it's traveling up. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. So why don't we get into our next track? This is called Ice Cream. Ice Cream, not ice cream.
Yeah, not ice cream.
Which is David's theme.
You just heard Ice Cream, which is David's theme, composed by Takafumi Wada.
I think this character is kind of like that. He's the big brute kind of guy.
Yeah, I think he's the green character.
The green character.
Yeah.
He's just wearing a big green leotard.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, he's like the big guy. Like he's the big one.
Yeah. This has a kind of rude and crude kind of sound to it, I think. The bass is kind of just a little bit dark and heavy, and the top end never really gets bright. It just kind of stays like in its kind of like murky waters. You know?
Yeah, it's not as I expected it to be a lot more scary, I guess. Kind of more like Deitz's theme, like a little bit troubled, but this one was more rockin' to me.
Yeah,
it had a little bit. It reminded me of like this guy is probably someone that sits around drinking beer, listening to old '80s bands, like rocking out. Yeah. So that's the feeling it gave me, which I thought was pretty cool. That when we were first listening to the soundtrack, I expected something kind of dark and menacing and even scary, but it was not. It was more like rock and roll.
What do you expect coming out of the Neo Geo Pocket Color? We only got so many channels to work with. Anyway, so we've been talking about the characters and playing to their themes. The game and the mini story kind of follows along 10 playable characters. And before you kind of mentioned 8, because you could only play 8 in the tournament,
right.
But there are 10 with a few unlockables.
Right. So let's start off with like one of the main characters. There's Brian McDougal, who is kind of like your power character. It takes a lot of inspiration from the U.S. wrestler Goldberg. As we go through this list of characters, there's a lot of them that kind of have things that
similar tropes and stuff that you would see, but
they're that type of character, or they do moves that are kind of similar, or they have a fighting style that might be similar to someone.
But there's no direct relation at all.
Right.
And they are very individual and very unique. And in SNK's kind of world, in the other wrestling game they did, 3 Count Bout, they had the same thing where it wasn't really any characters based on real, actual characters. They were all kind of fictitious SNK world characters.
Right. They don't want to get into any type of lawsuits, but yeah, they look different, but they might have similar play styles. Next up, we have Macy, who is also called the Oriental in the manual, and they're more of a versatile character that is most likely inspired by the Great Kabuki.
Yeah.
Then there's Mike Martin, who is slow but powerful with a lot of grapple moves.
That's maybe that is the guy in the green leotard.
I'm not sure. We'd have to double check. Because some of the names
it's been like a whole 4 hours since I played. So.
Yeah, some of the names are not as memorable. Like Deitz, who's up next, who's basically based on the Undertaker.
He's got that creepy like Iori kind of like hunched over kind of thing.
Yeah, and he's all gray, so he definitely there's like color missing from him, and he has the long like sulky look. So then there's Sho, which we played his track. He's quick and relies on physical attacks, and he practices Val Tudo. Is that how?
Yeah, it's kind of like a martial art.
Yeah,
it's kind of like similar to like Muay Thai.
Yeah, it's considered kind of like an MMA style of fighting. Like does a lot of grappling and kicking and punching. He's pretty versatile.
Yeah.
Then there's David Bogner, who's the heaviest character, and he's actually the only one that can't climb the turnbuckles. So
is that the guy that kind of looks like Zangief?
Might be. Like looking at right now in front of us, we have a picture of all the different characters, and it's pretty cropped down, so it's hard to tell who's the big guy, and they're all pretty big.
Yeah, they're all pretty big in this one.
Next up, we have Alex Fall, who's slim and cocky with strong grapples, and he's most likely inspired by The Rock, which was in the 2000s was one of the biggest wrestlers out there.
Kind of obvious, yeah.
Yeah. So then we have the Great Eagle, who's very fast and resembles the wrestler Tazak. And next up, we have Joseph Steele, who's the tallest, and he fights in his own grapple style, and he's only playable after beating him. So when we talked about the story, he was like the main guy. He had the belt, everyone wanted it, and he's like the boss. He would be like M. Bison if there's a Street Fighter. Right. Once you beat him, you can actually play as him, which is pretty cool. And then there's Kay, which is the only female character in the game, but it's so interesting. Like, so she's very fast. She's by far the quickest in the game, but she's also the weakest. She's not as strong as some of the big guys, but she has a really interesting way of being able to play her, which you found out the other day.
Yeah, so if you want to unlock her, so at first I was looking at this list of characters from the SNK wiki, and I was like, okay, like there's 10 here, but I'm only seeing 8. And then I found out about Joseph Steele, how you can unlock him. I'm like, well, how do you get this woman? And it turns out like she gets unlocked as a playable character. So if you save your game at any point, the Neo Geo Pocket Color has an internal battery, so it remembers like the date and time and stuff. After about a month, like randomly she becomes unlocked.
Yeah. It's not like beat the game and you get Joseph Steele and then do like tournaments or something like that, or play a certain number of hours. She just shows up after a certain amount of time.
Yeah. It's odd. But
I thought it was really cool that so the Neo Geo Pocket, you put in like a little watch battery and it will track the day and time. You put it all in. Like if you play through an emulator, it's always asking you every day, like every time you play it, like what day is it? And so I thought that was a really neat aspect that only the Neo Geo Pocket Color was doing at that time.
Right, and she kind of reminds me too of Mai from She kind of got that kind of sex appeal, I gotta say. Like I think they designed her that way, but it's not overblown.
Right. Like she has like a t-shirt kind of thing on under
she's
her
not wearing
outfit.
a bikini.
Yeah.
But that's the character rundown. It's a fun list. I mean, you got 10 characters. They didn't need to add any more. I think the game was perfect and designed the way it is. Just designed the way it is. So let's move on to some more music. So we talked about Alex. We got his theme next. It's called Funky Dog. All right, that was Alex's theme called Funky Dog, composed by Takafumi Wada.
Yeah, and since we know Alex is kind of a cocky, The Rock type character, this track was really fun and kind of all over the place and wild and didn't really take itself too seriously. And I thought since it's kind of mostly in that high range, it's very loud in that aspect of like it's hard not to notice the ear piercingness of it.
This is a very memorable track to me. Like I kind of hum this, during the day after I've been listening to it a few times. Just it's very catchy. It does have kind of a little funk to it. It's just the bass is fun. Everything about the track, this whole soundtrack, man. I'm gonna say it countless times later. After you guys listen to this episode, there's gonna be a track. I'm not sure which one it is, but you're gonna be like humming it like the rest of your workday or whatever.
Yeah, maybe it'll be Eagles' theme, which we have up next, which is called Tokyo Man. All right, you just heard Eagles' theme, which is called Tokyo Man, composed by Takafumi Wada.
This track is really a lot of fun, dude.
Yeah.
I like how in the beginning it's got like a really clear kind of intro vibe. When your character's walking in, you really only are hearing this track for like 10 seconds maybe. So it's really crucial what Wada-san is actually using for that short duration that you get. It's not until you go to like their story which you actually hear the full track listed out,
right,
or played out. But switching to an octave higher, it just kind of gives me chills a little bit. Like I like that, like da just gears me up.
Yeah, I really liked this track a lot. I thought it was really fun, really wild. It had a lot of energy and a lot of diversity in the way the track was. There were parts that were just, like you said, kind of felt like intro parts, and then there were parts that were really energetic and almost like, you're in battle type, stuff. I just thought it was a really fun track. I liked the energy this one had.
Yeah. So we've been talking about the gameplay, talking about the characters. The look of the game is so important to how everything kind of plays out. Everything is proportioned the way you would want it to be for such a small screen with a very low resolution, right? I think the graphics are absolutely gorgeous in this game. We talked about different games before on the show that had a minimal sprite color palette, which is like, 4 colors, I think, per sprite. And Neo Geo Pocket, I believe, had the same. And it shows in the characters, but you almost don't notice because each one has such lively animations that it kind of distracts you from the limited colors.
Yeah, and the limited colors actually help with branding the characters too, as far as like we were saying that Deitz, he's all gray. Like he doesn't have any color to him at all. And someone like Kay is pink. And one thing should be noted, she's not tiny either.
Yeah, she's yoked out.
She looks like she can hold her own. But it really helps them stand out against the backgrounds, which are very colorful. All the different rings are so cool with the Neo Geo Pocket logo, the IEW logo, the different colors of the mats and the ropes.
And you can change those out too. You can do like color swaps and stuff on those. And it kind of mixes up the game a little bit. You got the crowd moving and you got lights kind of flashing and there's a lot of color. Even though it's limited, it tricks you to making it feel a lot more fledged out. I didn't once think that like there was any issue with playing it on like my big screen. I was I was enjoying it just as much as if I were playing it on the tiny Neo Geo Pocket Color.
Yeah, and then like all the names and the times are all easily. I mean, it's not like overly complex and over designed. It's just really simple. And one thing I really liked about it was the character proportions are very, realistic to a degree as far as this could handle. I think you'd see a lot of games on the Neo Geo Pocket Color, like a lot of fighting games, they had that SD style, with like the big heads and the short bodies.
This doesn't follow that.
Yeah, this doesn't follow that at all. And I thought that really worked great for it. And then the perspective on the ring and everything is more realistic. It's not like a top down
or isometric that would drive me crazy.
Oh yeah, isometric would be really difficult. But I just thought this game was extremely beautiful the first time I saw it. I didn't expect a lot when we first decided to look at Big Bang Pro Wrestling, over a year ago. I thought, this is going to be another just generic wrestling game. There was a million of them out at the time, and this really blew us away.
Yeah, SNK's entries for all their Neo Geo Pocket Color games, they have like just this fantastic presentation style, and like it's just completely spectacular what they can pull off on such a limited system, And Big Bang Pro Wrestling, I want to say it's probably one of the best on the platform. Like it really is up there with, Metal Slug and Sonic and, Neo Turf Masters. It's up there. It ranks up there. I even like it better look, the Neo Geo Pocket Color didn't have a huge library,
right?
But when you compare all the black and white games and everything, this really holds its own. If this game was in black and white, I think it would equally be as impressive.
Yeah.
It just really has amazing gameplay. It's a simplified version of the Fire Pro Wrestling series that is amazing and people love. And so if you're into that, this is, goes right hand in hand with that. And I think even the graphics kind of mirror that image. So the other thing about the graphics that really stands out to me is the when you go into like the story mode, you get these cutscenes of the character kind of training and doing different things, and I think that's also awesome attention to detail on SNK's part.
Oh yeah, and earlier you mentioned how when the game starts up, it has like these like cutscenes like showing off the game and the characters.
Oh, yeah, like the intro sequence.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's not something you really expect to be that dynamic on such a tiny little handheld.
Yeah. Anyways, so let's get into some more tunes. We got Streaming, which is Joseph's theme, and we'll be right back. All right, that was Joseph's theme called Streaming, composed by Takafumi Wada.
Yeah, and like we mentioned before, Josef is the big main boss that you're trying to get the title from, so you kind of expect his track to have a lot going on and be really dynamic.
It's very weird to me, man.
It is weird. Yeah.
Like that swell is like why? Like
to me, it was kind of like fun meets dangerous at the same time. Like, oh yeah, he's like this dude, he's fun, but you got to take him seriously because he's obviously very good.
He's gonna bite you.
Yeah.
Yeah. This it's a cool track though. I liked even when it's doing that kind of twinkly part, that kind of trilly part. It's still like the bass is going dum 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 dum, and I think that kind of gives me the impression of like Jaws or something. It's not the da da.
A little bit,
but it's
yeah.
like the da 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 da.
Yeah, it's
So,
like there's something uneasy about those parts.
Yeah. Anyways, what do we got next?
Next up, we have Cocoa Milk, which is K's theme. You just heard Cocoa Milk, which is K's theme, composed by Takafumi Wada.
This might be one of my favorite tracks.
Yeah.
This is cool, man.
Yeah.
This is really cool. I really love in that second part where the percussion line is really rad. It's rocking the whole way through. And then it gets to that second part and it turns into this really cool like brush stroke. Do you want to hear that real quick? I like that. It's probably not going to sound that cool when we solo it out, but I like it a lot. It's like somebody playing spoons or something. Yeah, that part. It's like club. You can see where that is right here. Oh man, that bass is awesome too.
Yeah, it's a very cool track. I mean, that second part, the opening is pretty cool. It's simple and kind of sweet, like you would maybe expect for a female character in the the 2000s. But then it really just like takes a different turn, and I really like that part. And then even right before the loop, it gets really pretty intense.
Yeah. Wada, he did a really fantastic job with the soundtrack. You know, a lot. I don't want to say other composers might blow this off or anything like that, but you think of Big Bang Pro Wrestling, maybe while it was in development, there could have been a chance that he's like, okay, like who's going to play? It's a wrestling game, I'm just going to make like some simple tunes or something like that. But no, like this is really, he's very diligent at putting something very unique to each character with the limitations, and still gives you just this wealth of like ear candy.
Yeah, and it would be interesting too to see how SNK thought of this game, because like we said, it was very late for the company. It was their last game, and they didn't really do much else with wrestling, and this was their second attempt at a wrestling game.
Yeah.
Like, did they even think of this game as very important to them, or is it just the company was winding down, let's finish off the projects that we have started? But I think not just us, a lot of people really love this game, and it's it's hard to find and it's expensive.
Yeah. What's funny is there's also a beta version of the game. It's kind of in ROM form floating around, which suggests that the original name is going to be called Wrestling Madness, which, whatever. Big Bang Pro Wrestling isn't much better, so they could have gone with either one. There's a few graphic differences, including like the title screen, but they play identical. Some of the character sprites, they all look the same, but their portraits are a little bit different, like not as polished out, but it's basically the same exact game. The game, like we said before, is also pretty hard to come by. I kind of spotted it behind glass in Japan like once, and I'll post a picture somewhere, like maybe in Discord or something. But yeah, otherwise, like I think it was, man, I don't want to jump the gun here and guess, but I think it was like 300 something.
Yeah, they're extremely expensive. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. There's a lot of other very expensive games on the Neo Geo Pocket Color, and that's because, collectors are buying them all up, and there's not really as many in circulation, too.
Yeah, I mean, this was a system that didn't pump out games, and it didn't pump out copies of those games. So, I mean, there's tons of them. Like, we did the Rockman Battle, was it Battle and Fighters?
Yeah.
That's another extremely expensive game. I think that's like $300 to $350. But there's a whole bunch of them. Even some games that's like never really heard of or didn't really make a splash from whatever type of franchise here in the US. And it's just like, wow, like Metal Slug itself is like $80.
I'm so glad, because when I got Metal Slug, it was like $20 or something like that. Yeah. Anyways, a lot of good stuff on the Neo Geo Pocket Color, but not a lot of quantity.
Yeah.
So, if you do have a Neo Geo Pocket Color and you want to buy some games, good
luck.
Yeah, good luck. Luckily, if you did get in earlier, like me, you probably have a good handful of stuff. I have like Sonic, a few, Baseball Stars, stuff like that. And I think you have Neo Turf Masters?
Yes, I have Neo Turf Masters. I also have Sonic. I remember you brought me some games from Japan back that were just like random, like relatively cheap Neo Geo Pocket Color games.
Yeah.
They were like puzzle or gambling type games.
I think one's like a pachinko game or something.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get into another track. This is called Geisha, and it is Final Match background music composed by Takafumi Wada.
You just heard the Final Match background music called Geisha, composed by Takafumi Wada.
Maybe not as like energetic as some of the other tracks we heard, but it is kind of like the final shakedown kind of track. I liked it, yeah.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to say about this track. It's pretty cool. It's really solid. It's not my favorite track, but it's definitely not a bad track at all.
Yeah, there is something I do want to say about it. What is going on with that first channel?
Yeah.
You want to hear that real quick?
Yeah.
What is that noise? It's doing something really weird with like. Let's hear it here. So I'm gonna turn off channel 2, 3, and the noise channel.
Mm-hmm.
You hear that? Like, what is that? It's really like a tambourine or something?
I don't know. Yeah, I was thinking kind of like wood blocks or something.
Yeah. That's a cool noise, man.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
Sounds like crickets or something too. Anyways, yeah, cool track. Not a whole lot to say, not a lot there, but still I think serves a good purpose for being like kind of the final match. So awesome. Anyways, that about wraps up the show. Today we covered Big Bang Pro Wrestling on the Neo Geo Pocket Color, composed by Takafumi Wada.
Yeah, if you want to know more about the show, you can check us out online at pixelatedaudio.com for show notes and track lists. We can also be found on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Pixelated Audio.
The best way to get in touch with us is Discord.
Right.
That's a lot of action in there. We have two moderators. There is Norm and Electric Boogaloo, and they kind of post a lot of tracks, and they're great guys. And so... Gene's in there, like everybody, a lot of listeners and a lot of friends. And so join the Discord server. The link's on the website. A lot of fun.
Yeah, it's very cool seeing a lot of the listeners of the show get to interact with each other because, sometimes like us, we think we're the only people that know about this stuff. And then you find all these other people that are interested and it's, you make new friendships. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Do want to give a few shout outs. There's a lot of, we've had a lot of comments and feedback since the last episode, and want to give a shout out to Brandon Gibbons for being a new patron. So thank you very much. It means a lot to us and it helps support the show. A lot of reviews on iTunes recently. We got one from Cannon of the West from the US. He's just a really nice kind of review for the podcast, and so we want to say thank you. Zeta Strike from the US also left us a great review. Thank you very much. There was MVDS from Brazil. Also left an awesome review. I had to use a translator because I don't speak Portuguese, but it was very awesome to see that review in there as well. Also, a few others, man. We got like one from the UK. It was Kotatsu Neko. I just want to say thank you very much. Yeah. And then Norm Malones from the US.
That's a fun name.
I think that's Norm. I think this is
probably
Norm.
Is. Yeah, just got around to
actually doing a review.
Yeah, that's great. So much. I mean, like you guys have seen, we've been kind of off for a little while, and then we came back in an episode, and then we were kind of gone for another couple weeks.
That's my fault.
But just all the support you guys have shown the show and asking when's there new episodes, is everything okay, like all the activity in Discord, it's just been really, really great, helping us through all this tough transitions with moving and doing different things and families growing and stuff. It's been very helpful.
Yeah. And also want to give a big shout out to G the Guardian for doing the proper VGM pack of this. I wanted to do it a long time ago, but I never really got around to it, so I appreciate that, dude. You can find the link on our sister site, vgmrips.net, where all the cool guys hang out. And there's a ton of packs, so you can go in and rate them, download them, listen to all this music. If you have an iPhone, you can use Modizer, which is a great way to listen to these VGM packs.
Yeah.
If you have Android, I think there is Droid Sound, which also works, and I think is pretty up to date with its VGM plugin. And so just want to say thanks to everybody over at vgmrips.net as well.
Oh, yeah. And then if you're new to the show, we have a lot of episodes to check out. We mentioned Neo Turf Masters, which we had Takushi Himura on the show, which was very cool. And then we also had Sonic, which is our other Neo Geo Pocket Color episode. But I mean, there's so many different systems, Genesis, SNES, MSX. But is there an episode that that kind of sticks out to you right now? Just off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, Bob
for the Super Nintendo and Genesis. Yeah.
I don't know, but Bob. Yeah, go listen to that one. It was a fun episode.
Another good old one.
Yeah, it was Super NES and Genesis. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to say, I think Pokemon Snap. I think is.
Oh man,
it's like Pokemon's big, but people don't really think about the 64, and we haven't done too many 64 episodes.
Yeah, it's because a lot of the 64 stuff kind of sounds muddled. So we got to just find something that we like and do it. I mean, we did do a few tracks on our Bangai-O episode, but that's been kind of about it.
Yeah, that was mostly not focused on the N64.
The N64, right. But yeah, a lot of episodes, and we got a lot more coming. This year's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of really cool stuff planned out. I'm going to plug Gene's miniseries. It's going to be coming up soon. I'm probably putting him on the spot to get it done because I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I really liked. We haven't talked about the idea behind it, I don't think. So I'm really excited for this idea. I think it'll be cool.
Yeah. And we just got a lot of other really cool stuff coming up. So hope you guys stick with us, and we'll see you back in a few weeks for the next episode. In the meantime, though, we're going to leave you with a little track I like to call You're Mine. which is the ending theme. And we did play this one actually before in an expansion pack, but it's so good we got to hear it again. Thank you guys again, and we'll see you back in a few weeks. Milk. Weird.
Yeah.